up to reality. Nothing ever goes as planned in this accursed world. The longer you live, the more you will realize that the only things that truly exist in this reality are merely pain, suffering, and futility. Listen, everywhere you look in this world, wherever there is light, there will always be shadows to be found as well. As long as there is a concept of victors, the vanquished will also exist. The selfish intent of wanting to preserve peace initiates wars, and hatred is born in order to protect love. There are nexuses, causal relationships that cannot be separated. I want to sever the fate of this world. A world of only victors. A world of only peace. A world of only love. I will create such a world.
My blade! Purge all evil!
Cartethyia is easily one of the most hyped characters in gacha history, and her being a clear parallel to the Legend of Zelda games and Princess Zelda herself, I couldn't be more excited for this character. Today I'm going to teach you the ins and outs of Cartethyia and Fleurdalys in a very beginner-friendly and digestible format. Let's start with her base form, Cartethyia. As Cartethyia, your primary goal is to summon the 3 sword shadows in her kit and transform into Fleurdalys, since each of these swords when manifesting into Fleurdalys will buff her kit in various ways. The 3 swords are the Power of Discord, Mandate of Divinity, and the Heart of Virtue. However, that's quite a mouthful, so we're going to simplify them as Wisdom, Courage, and Power. Starting with Wisdom, there are 2 ways to achieve this sword, that being Cartethia's heavy attack and her intro skill. For most rotations, you'll be relying on the intro skill way to obtain the Sword of Wisdom, but I'll get into why you might want to understand it can be attained through heavy attack later. Moving on to Courage, you're going to want to finish a full basic attack sequence to obtain this sword. However, that can prove more than difficult in the fast-paced combat Wuthering Waves offers its players. Luckily, Cartethia's dodge counter will act as a shortcut through her basic attack sequence, making it easier to get to the end of the combo and obtain the Sword of Courage. Basically, if you see a beam of energy crash downward on the enemies, the combo has been finished and you can continue your rotation. And finally, Power. Power is incredibly simple, just use Cartethia's resonant skill and you'll be granted the Sword of Power. However, it's very important to understand that you want to always end Cartethia's rotation with Power if looking to be optimal. The reason being is the final step to this rotation is you must perform Cartethia's mid-air plunge attack to absorb the swords for when you manifest as Fleurdalys. Luckily for us, Cartethia's resonant skill places her mid-air at the end, and by performing a basic attack afterwards, you'll do the plunge attack and absorb each sword. Now that you have obtained all 3 buffs, Wisdom, Courage, and Power, you can finally manifest into Fleurdalys. However, if you're like me and you prefer to play as Cartethyia as much as possible, let's go over how to properly play just Cartethyia. This is where understanding you can obtain Wisdom through your heavy attack comes in as well, as the plunge attack she performs does more damage the more swords that are consumed. This being said, a basic Cartethyia only combo is going to look like this. Swap in from your support with an intro skill, then finish a basic attack sequence and then resonant skill into mid-air plunge just like you normally would. However, now instead of manifesting, you're going to finish another basic attack sequence, then heavy attack, then jump into the air and perform mid-air plunge. Then repeat the basic attack, heavy attack, plunge combo one more time. Each of the plunge attacks deal significant damage. Then finally, you're going to finish off with a basic attack sequence, heavy attack, and by this point your resonant skill should be off cooldown, so you finish off with resonant skill into mid-air plunge for one more big plunge attack. Keep in mind that Fleurdalys also consumes Aero Erosion stacks, so you're also keeping your Aero Erosion topped up playing this way for extra damage as well. Now let's talk about manifesting into Fleurdalys. So as I mentioned earlier, as Fleurdalys, your stage 5 basic attack, stage 2 mid-air attack, and her resonance skill will consume 1 stack of Aero Erosion on each enemy hit. However, when this occurs, it will also instantly deal 1 instance of Aero Erosion damage. Before we talk about how to play Fleurdalys, let's talk about what each sword buff gives her. Wisdom will give her resistance to interruption. Courage will make it so Aero Erosion damage is amped by 50% and decreases the damage interval by 50%. And Power will make it so basic attack stage 5, mid-air attack stage 2, enhanced heavy attack, and resonant skill will spread the highest Aero Erosion stack to all nearby targets. The Courage buff is actually crazy good because it's effectively tripling your passive Aero Erosion damage. To put simply, if your Aero Erosion damage is 100 per second, in 2 seconds you'll deal 200 damage. Now with the buff, you would be doing 150 damage per half a second, meaning in 2 seconds you would be dealing 600 damage. These buffs, however, only last for 12 seconds once manifested, meaning you have 12 seconds as Fleurdalys to fill up her forte and finish her rotation to deal optimal damage. Additionally, if you don't have a good Aero Erosion support like Jacona, during the 12-second manifest state, you can freely swap between Cartethyia and Fleurdalys. While being Cartethyia, your manifest timer is paused. This is a means to continually feed yourself Aero Erosion stacks. However, it drastically extends her rotation and field time. There are a bunch of new combos Fleurdalys gains. However, honestly, you will find so many different combos to use from various different guides. I'm here to simplify everything for you. The main focus is going to be finishing every attack sequence you choose to perform, as the ending fills the most conviction for her forte. Make sure to use her resonance skills, but to finish a sequence of attacks in between. My preferred rotation is resonance skill followed by 3 basic attacks, then resonance skill again into 3 more basic attacks, then finish with heavy attack into basic attack to perform her enhanced heavy attack, and finish the combo with basic attack until your conviction is full. Once filled, you can trigger your final blow with her Resonance Liberation. Her Resonance Liberation will deal increased damage per stack of Aero Erosion, 20% per stack with a cap of 100% for 5 stacks. However, all the stacks will also be consumed. A lot of Cartethyia and Fleurdalys' kit seems complicated, but in reality, it's just going to be to build up your Wisdom, Courage, and Power swords, plunge attack, then transform with Resonance Liberation into Fleurdalys, and fill your conviction by cycling between attack strings and resonance skills, then finish with one last Resonance Liberation when your forte is full, then rotate your team and do it all over again. Fortunately for us, Cartethyia is much more simple to build. Let's talk about it. Cartethia's weapon options are unfortunately plentiful but limited. As of right now, there are no 4-star swords that suit her build at all. Because of her HP scaling and crit hungry kit, she only has 5-star options and only one 3-star option to fit her kit. Let's start with her signature weapon, Defier's Thorn. As usual, Cartethia's signature weapon is a perfect fit and it's tailor-made for her. With its incredibly high 72% HP substat, coupled with its effect granting an additional 12 to 24% more HP, it's hard to pass up. Additionally, it granting not only defense ignore but also increased damage taken on the same effect is actually crazy. As of now, if you can get Cartethia's weapon, I highly recommend doing so. However, if you're saving what you can to try and grab your next favorite character, I understand. Another surprising option will be Brant's signature Unflickering Valor. Since Cartethyia scales off of HP, the low base attack is a non-issue. The energy regen subset is absolutely overkill, since Cartethyia needs very little energy regen. However, the 8 to 16% crit rate helps smooth out your echo hunting. And the double basic attack bonuses are actually quite good, given that most of Cartethia's damage is considered basic attack damage. If you happen to have one kicking around, this can be a great substitute. As for the rest of her 5-star options, you're looking at any of the swords with crit substats. So Emerald of Genesis, Red Spring, or Blazing Brilliance are all good options since Cartethyia wants as much crit stats as possible. Their effects aren't great on Cartethyia, however, so you're only taking these to smooth out your echo builds. Now, if you don't have any of these weapons, your only other option is going to be the 3-star weapon, Guardian Sword. This weapon is an absolute last resort. The 30% HP substat isn't going to help much, and you're going to need a lot of crit substats on your echoes. Speaking of echoes, there's really only one option for sets, and that's the new Windward Pilgrimage set. With its 2-piece giving 10% arrow damage bonus, and its 4-piece giving an additional 30% arrow damage bonus and 10% crit rate upon hitting an enemy with Aero Erosion, there's no real competition. Here's where Cartethyia is different, however. Cartethyia, instead of the usual 4-3-3-1-1 combo, she wants 4-4-1-1-1. Since Cartethyia gets arrow damage bonus from so many other places, it's more important that we get HP percent and crit stats. Doing this not only allows us to get 2 echoes with crit as a main stat, but 3 pieces with HP as well. That being said, you're going to want crit rate or crit damage on your 4s, and HP percent on your 1s. As for your primary echo slot, you're going to want to take Reminiscence Fleurdalys. This Echo skill not only deals a decent chunk of damage, but it also gives you 10% arrow damage bonus, which is doubled if you use Cartethyia or Aero Rover. Moving on to Cartethia's Forte priority. Honestly, anything but intro skill is a priority here, but if you want to be more optimal, it's going to be Forte Circuit, Resonance Liberation, basic attacks, and then Resonance skill. As Forte Circuit and Resonance Liberation are how you scale up Fleurdalys, where most of Cartethia's damage lies. Now that Cartethyia is ready for battle, who do you want to bring along for the ride? Let's talk about it. For Cartethyia, because most of her damage comes from her arrow-based basic attacks, you're going to want to bring teammates that either amp her arrow damage or basic attack damage. Additionally, since she relies on erosion stacks to put out more damage more easily, you'll want to bring characters that can apply Aero Erosion. That being said, Chacona and Aero Rover are going to be her best in slot teammates. Chacona not only applies erosion stacks in mass, but provides a bunch of arrow damage bonus as well. Aero Rover is free with a free 5-star weapon and Cartethia's best in slot healer. Because Aero Rover can increase the maximum stacks of erosion, they're incredibly important to have around. That being said, if you don't have Chacona as your sub DPS, you can substitute her with either Sanwa for her basic attack damage amp, or Alto for his arrow damage amp. If you're really intent on not building Rover as your healer, you can swap them out for either Verena for her elemental damage amp, or Shorekeeper for her damage amp and crit damage amp. However, I highly recommend building Rover as they have continually been an excellent free-to-play option for many teams. This isn't Genshin Impact, and our main character not only aura farms, but is extremely useful as well. Lastly, you can, if you really want to, use Confession Phoebe as your sub DPS, but only with Aero Rover. This team is mostly a meme, but it does have some merit, since Aero Rover can change Phoebe's Frazzle stacks into erosion. However, none of these additional teams come close to Chacona and Aero Rover, so if you missed out on Chacona, I highly recommend the next time she's up on banner to pick her up for this team. Other than that, I wish you luck on your future pulls, and I hope you enjoy your Cartethyia however you choose to play her. Catch you later.